My friends, there comes a time in every person's life when they must make a decision, either to follow the crowd or to rise above it. Most people walk through life thinking the same thoughts, speaking the same words, and expecting a different result. But those who create change, those who lead nations, those who transform lives, they do one thing differently. They think differently, and they speak differently. When you begin to think differently, you begin to step into the world of vision. You start to see what others cannot see. You no longer focus on the problem, you focus on the possibility. When everyone says, "It cannot be done," your mind says, "There must be a way." Thinking differently means allowing your imagination to go beyond your circumstances. It means seeing the invisible before it becomes visible. It means believing in what your heart whispers, even when the world shouts the opposite. Do you know why so many people never reach their potential? Because their thoughts are imprisoned by fear, tradition, and doubt. They think the same way they have always thought, and as a result, they stay where they have always been. You cannot have a new life with an old mindset. You cannot step into greatness while your mind is chained to mediocrity. If you want a different result, you must develop a different thought pattern. The power to rise, the power to succeed, the power to break through, it all begins in your mind. But it doesn't stop with thinking differently. You must also speak differently. Your words are seeds, and your life is the field. Whatever you plant with your tongue will grow. When you speak defeat, defeat grows. When you speak fear, fear multiplies. But when you speak faith, faith rises. When you speak hope, hope takes root. When you speak life, life begins to blossom in every area of your existence. Your mouth is the steering wheel of your destiny. If you keep saying, "I can't do it," then you never will. If you keep saying, "I'm not good enough," then you will never rise above your own confession. But the moment you begin to say, "I can, I will, I must, and I am able," the atmosphere around you begins to change. Your words carry creative power. They shape your future before you ever arrive there. Thinking differently gives birth to new possibilities. Speaking differently gives life to them. That is why you must guard both your mind and your mouth. Don't allow negative thoughts to live rent-free in your mind. Don't allow toxic words to flow freely from your lips. Every time you think, think with faith. Every time you speak, speak with power. Your thoughts create the blueprint, but your words lay the foundation. Look at history. Every great movement began with someone who dared to think differently. Every transformation began with someone who spoke differently. When others saw dry bones, they saw an army. When others saw darkness, they declared light. When others saw a storm, they spoke peace. The difference was not in what they saw, it was in how they thought and what they said. If you want your life to rise, elevate your thoughts. If you want your world to change, change your words. Stop saying, "It's impossible," and start saying, "All things are possible." Stop thinking about what could go wrong and start imagining what could go right. Stop agreeing with fear and start aligning with faith. The transformation of your life begins the moment you renew your mind and refine your speech. Think differently, speak differently, and you will live differently. Your life changes the moment you start thinking beyond the crowd. The majority of people in this world live within the limits of conventional thought. They think what society teaches them to think, they accept what others believe to be true, and they repeat the same mental patterns generation after generation. But those who dare to think beyond the crowd are the ones who break boundaries, create innovations, and inspire change. Thinking beyond the crowd means stepping out of the comfort zone of conformity. It means choosing to believe that there is more to life than what you currently see. It means refusing to accept that things must remain the way they have always been. It's the ability to look at an ordinary situation and imagine an extraordinary possibility. When you begin to think beyond the crowd, you stop asking for permission to dream. You stop waiting for others to validate your ideas. You start to trust the vision that burns inside your heart. The crowd may laugh at you, they may doubt you, they may even reject you, but that's because they can only see through the eyes of limitation. You, on the other hand, begin to see through the eyes of purpose. You begin to understand that your destiny is not determined by popular opinion, but by the strength of your faith and the clarity of your mind. Every invention, every breakthrough, every revolution in history began with one person who dared to think differently from everyone else. Thinking beyond the crowd also requires courage. It is easy to go along with what everyone else believes, but it takes strength to challenge the norm. It takes boldness to question the impossible. The crowd will tell you to stay where it's safe, to follow the rules, to be realistic. But thinking differently is not about being reckless. It's about being visionary. It's about seeing something greater, something higher, something that others cannot see yet. You are not called to blend in, you are called to stand out. You are not here to repeat what has already been done. You are here to create what has never been seen. When you start thinking beyond the crowd, your mind becomes your greatest asset. You begin to develop ideas that others overlook. You start to see solutions where others see problems. You find opportunity in places that others ignore. This is how leaders are born. They are not the smartest in the room, but they are the ones who think differently about what everyone else is looking at. They are not afraid to imagine a new path, to dream a new dream, and to act upon it, even when no one believes in them. But thinking beyond the crowd is not just about imagination, it's also about belief. You must believe that you were created for something greater. You must believe that your life has meaning, that your ideas have value, that your perspective has power. The crowd's voice may be loud, but the inner voice of vision is stronger. Once you start to believe in that inner voice, you begin to attract new possibilities into your life. Your thinking starts to align with your destiny. You stop chasing approval and start pursuing purpose. When you think beyond the crowd, you also become a light to others. Your courage to think differently inspires others to do the same. Your vision opens doors for people who once believed they were stuck. You show the world that there is no limit to what a person can achieve when they dare to break free from the prison of ordinary thinking. The greatest transformation in life begins in the mind. When your thoughts rise, your life rises. When your vision expands, your reality expands. The power to change your life does not come from outside. It begins with a single decision to think differently from the crowd. Your words carry the creative power to shape your destiny. Every word that leaves your mouth is a seed, and those seeds are constantly being planted into the soil of your future. What you speak today becomes the harvest you live tomorrow. The words you use are not meaningless sounds. They are forces that shape the direction of your life. When you speak with fear, fear multiplies. When you speak with doubt, doubt grows stronger. But when you speak faith, courage, and victory, your words begin to align your world with those realities. Your tongue is a tool of creation, a bridge between what exists in your mind and what manifests in your life. Many people fail to realize that their speech determines the atmosphere around them. You can talk yourself into defeat or talk yourself into destiny. If you constantly say, "I can't do this," "I'm not capable," "things never work out for me," those words begin to take root in your mind, and soon your actions follow them. You begin to live according to what you confess. But if you choose to say, "I can," "I will," "I'm growing," "I'm becoming stronger," then your spirit aligns with that confession. The energy around you shifts because your words set the tone of your inner world. Your speech reflects the condition of your heart. When your heart is filled with fear, your mouth releases negativity. When your heart is filled with hope, your mouth releases faith. This is why it is vital to guard your heart and monitor your words. Every declaration you make has the power to either build or destroy. If you want to live a victorious life, you must discipline your speech to agree with the future you desire, not the fear you feel. Words have power, and when spoken with conviction, they can move mountains that seem immovable. There are moments when you might not see any progress, but that's when your words matter the most. Speaking positively when things are easy is simple. Speaking faith when you are surrounded by challenges is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. When you continue to speak life in the face of failure, you create an atmosphere where miracles can happen. You give permission for new possibilities to emerge. Words can call things that do not yet exist into being. They can turn hopelessness into hope, weakness into strength, and confusion into clarity. You must understand that what you continually speak about, you eventually bring about. Words are creative forces that work whether you are aware of them or not. When you declare, "I'm sick of this life," or "I'll never change," those statements set invisible limits on your destiny. But when you speak, "Something great is coming my way," or "This season is preparing me for something better," your words begin to shape your environment toward growth and transformation. The words you repeat daily become the script of your life story. This is why changing your language is one of the fastest ways to change your life. Begin to replace negative speech with empowering declarations. Instead of saying, I'm tired. Say, I'm being renewed. Instead of saying, I'm unlucky, say, I'm favored. Instead of saying, this is too hard, say, I'm growing stronger through this. Each word you speak should serve as a seed of faith, not a weapon of doubt. You are constantly speaking your future into existence, whether you realize it or not. Even in silence, your words are forming in your thoughts, preparing to shape your next experience. That's why self-talk is just as powerful as spoken words. The conversations you have with yourself create the internal environment that your actions grow from. When your thoughts and your words are in harmony, the world begins to respond to your conviction. Your destiny listens to your language. Every breakthrough starts with a declaration, and every downfall begins with a confession of defeat. The direction of your speech determines the direction of your life. Renewing your mind unlocks new levels of possibility and vision. Your life can only go as high as your thoughts allow it to. The mind is the engine room of your destiny, and if that engine is filled with old patterns, negative beliefs, and limiting thoughts, your life will keep repeating the same cycle. Renewing your mind means cleansing it from fear, doubt, and failure, and replacing those thoughts with faith, courage, and purpose. It means allowing fresh ideas to enter and new possibilities to take root. You cannot move into a new season while holding on to an old mindset. What used to work in the past may not serve your future. To step into the next level of your life, your thoughts must evolve before your circumstances do. Many people want change without transformation. They want growth without renewal. They keep thinking in old ways, but expecting new results. True change does not begin with your circumstances. It begins with your mind. Every great achievement, every major victory, every act of transformation starts first as a renewed thought. The moment your thinking expands, your possibilities multiply. When your mind opens to greater vision, life begins to respond to your inner growth. The limits that once held you back start to disappear because your perception of what's possible has changed. Renewing your mind requires intentional effort. You cannot fill your thoughts with negativity, fear, and complaints, and then expect peace, power, and purpose. The mind is like soil. It will grow whatever is planted in it. If you plant seeds of doubt, you will harvest insecurity. But if you plant seeds of belief, you will reap confidence and strength. This is why you must take control of what you allow to enter your mind. Guard it against toxic influences, destructive words, and hopeless voices. Feed it with inspiration, wisdom, and truth. Renewal does not happen automatically. It happens when you decide to think differently, to challenge old beliefs, and to embrace new understanding. When your mind is renewed, your vision changes. You stop seeing obstacles as the end, and you start seeing them as opportunities for growth. You stop focusing on what's missing, and you start appreciating what's possible. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, but as a creator of change. A renewed mind is not limited by fear or failure. It sees beyond the surface, beyond what is temporary, and focuses on what can be transformed. It has the power to imagine a better future, even when the present looks uncertain. The renewal of your mind gives birth to fresh vision, a vision that empowers you to act with clarity, confidence, and conviction. Renewing your mind also means freeing yourself from the weight of your past. Many people live in yesterday's pain, replaying old failures and reliving old disappointments. But as long as your thoughts are trapped in what was, you cannot move into what can be. A renewed mind releases what's behind and reaches for what's ahead. It doesn't deny the past, but it refuses to be defined by it. Every new thought becomes a bridge that leads you away from limitation and closer to transformation. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. When your mind is filled with light, your path becomes clear. When your mind is renewed with faith and possibility, you begin to attract opportunities that match that mindset. The world outside you begins to mirror the change within you. Renewing your mind is not just a mental exercise, it is a spiritual awakening. It is the process of aligning your thoughts with your purpose, your beliefs with your destiny, and your imagination with the greatness within you. When you renew your mind, you step into a dimension of life where nothing is impossible, because your thoughts have been elevated to see beyond the limits of ordinary thinking. Speaking faith in the face of fear transforms your environment. When fear rises, most people speak according to what they feel, not what they believe. They describe their problems, magnify their struggles, and confess their worries. But those who walk in strength understand that words are not meant to echo fear. They are meant to direct faith. When everything around you looks uncertain, when the noise of doubt grows louder, that is when your words matter the most. Speaking faith in fearful moments does not deny reality, it declares a greater truth. It says, yes, the situation looks hard, but my belief is stronger than what I see. It's the courage to use your voice as a weapon of victory, even when your emotions are shaking. Fear thrives in silence. When you refuse to speak faith, fear fills the gap. But when you open your mouth and declare hope, courage begins to rise within you. Faith-filled words shift the atmosphere of your heart. They replace panic with peace, anxiety with assurance, and weakness with inner strength. Fear cannot survive where faith is being spoken. Every word of faith is like light piercing through the darkness. When you continue to speak faith, even when the outcome is uncertain, you create a climate of victory around you. Your words begin to attract strength, clarity, and divine favor. Speaking faith in the face of fear also trains your mind to focus on what can be instead of what might go wrong. Fear is fueled by imagination. It paints pictures of loss, pain, and failure. But faith paints pictures of purpose, promise, and breakthrough. The moment you speak words of faith, your mind shifts its focus. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" it begins to ask, "What if I succeed?" That simple change in language changes your posture. You begin to act differently, walk differently, and expect differently. The environment around you begins to match the vision you confess. When you speak faith, you align your spirit with power. You begin to command peace instead of chaos. You release courage instead of confusion. Faith does not ignore challenges, but it speaks from a higher authority than fear. When you say, I will overcome, this will work for my good, or I'm stronger than what I'm facing. You are not just comforting yourself, you are activating a spiritual law. The words of faith call forth strength that was hidden. They summon resources that fear kept locked away. The moment your mouth aligns with belief, your environment begins to shift in response. Many people wait for their circumstances to change before they speak faith. But that is not how transformation works. Faith must be spoken before the evidence appears. You don't speak because things are easy. You speak because you believe they can be better. The words of faith are like seeds. You plant them when the soil looks empty, trusting that in time, they will grow into the harvest you hope for. When your world seems dark, speak light. When you feel weak, speak strength. When everything says it's over, speak life. That is the language of faith. Fear and faith cannot coexist in the same space. The one you feed with your words becomes the one that grows. Every time you open your mouth, you are either giving voice to fear or giving power to faith. The more you speak faith, the smaller fear becomes. The atmosphere you create through your words will determine whether your spirit rises or sinks. Speaking faith changes how you think, how you feel, and how you respond. It builds an inner environment that attracts peace, guidance, and courage. Even when fear whispers doubt, faith keeps speaking hope. And that continuous confession of belief transforms every fearful environment into one filled with power, expectation, and divine possibility. Thinking differently and speaking differently leads to living differently. The quality of your life is a reflection of the quality of your thoughts and words. If your thoughts are limited and your words are negative, your life will reflect that limitation. But when your thinking expands and your speech aligns with faith and purpose, your life begins to rise to a higher level. Transformation begins internally long before it manifests externally. The moment your thoughts shift from fear to faith, and your words shift from doubt to declaration, your entire direction changes. You begin to move toward possibilities you once thought were unreachable, because your inner world determines your outer world. When you think differently, you no longer view life through the narrow lens of limitation. You start to believe that new outcomes are possible even when the past has been filled with failure. You begin to recognize that every situation holds potential, that every obstacle hides opportunity. The way you think creates the path your life follows. If your thoughts are full of worry and defeat, you'll find yourself walking in circles. But when your thoughts are filled with purpose, vision, and confidence, your path becomes clear and your steps become bold. Thinking differently means refusing to let circumstances dictate your perspective. It means seeing from a higher dimension, where your imagination is guided by possibility instead of fear. Speaking differently strengthens the thoughts you choose to believe. Words give life to what your mind conceives. Every time you speak, you reinforce the reality you want to live in. If you continually speak problems, they grow louder. If you continually speak hope, it begins to manifest around you. Words have a creative force that builds your environment. They become the echo of your thoughts, and the evidence of your mindset. When your language changes, your atmosphere changes. When you replace negativity with powerful, purposeful words, you begin to attract the outcomes that align with those declarations. Your words become the bridge between your inner transformation and your external manifestation. Thinking and speaking differently also change the kind of energy you release into the world. People who think with fear and speak with complaint draw more chaos into their lives. Those who think with vision and speak with gratitude attract peace and progress. Your thoughts and words are like magnets. They pull toward you the experiences that match their frequency. The more intentional you become about what you think and say, the more your life begins to align with purpose. That it is why people who constantly renew their minds and guard their speech seem to move forward faster. They have learned how to create an atmosphere where growth becomes natural. Living differently is not something that happens overnight. It is the result of consistent alignment between your thoughts and your words. When your mind is filled with clarity and your mouth is filled with truth, your actions begin to flow effortlessly in the direction of success. You start to see new paths where others see dead ends. You start to experience breakthroughs that others only dream about. Living differently is simply the physical manifestation of mental and verbal transformation. It is what happens when your inner belief system becomes stronger than your external circumstances. When your thinking changes, your expectations rise. When your speech changes, your reality shifts. You begin to carry yourself differently because your inner dialogue has changed. You no longer speak in the language of fear, but in the vocabulary of faith. You no longer think in the patterns of limitation, but in the rhythm of abundance. This new way of thinking and speaking creates a new identity within you, one that is confident, focused, and unshakable. It allows you to see yourself as capable, worthy, and destined for more. And as your inner world transforms, your outer world begins to follow, shaping a life that reflects the power of your renewed thoughts and the strength of your spoken words.